Hi, welcome to the first and probably only episode of J Dawg Gets Prehistoric. Today, I'm interested in talking about dinosaurs and dispelling an odd myth I heard about recently. So, word on the street is that dinosaurs actually have two brains, one in their head and one in their butt. Crazy, right? It's the first I'm hearing of this, but let me explain where this comes from and why it's a load of dino dung. Alright. Oh, I need to do that. This misconception is focused on stegosaurs and some sauropods, but mainly just large dinos with big old dump trucks back there. Oof. Jeez Louise. Stegosaurus is probably one of the most recognizable dinosaurs in the dino arsenal, given its prominent back and tail spikes. I feel like it's easily recognizable, and I'm sure you've seen it in some sort of media alongside like T-Rex or Velociraptor or what have you. Pterodactyls aren't dinosaurs. But it was interesting to find out that people seriously believed that these guys were hiding an extra brain in their rear. Or they were hogging that rear brain all to themselves. I don't know. So stegosaurs have a brain in the usual place where brains go, and it's about the size of a dog's, not a walnut. That's another misconception, is that stegosaurs have really tiny brains, but they're not crazy small. It's just the fact that they have such a small brain when looking at the rest of their body. They're actually known for having one of the smallest brain to body ratios of all dinos. So this is what originally caused scientists to speculate on how they managed to live with such large bodies and control them with such tiny brains. So to find out that they had such a small brain, there had to be some sort of explanation as to how they could live. So they speculated and considered what made the most sense, given that all they had to make these guesses on were just these fossils. We don't have their brains fossilized alongside their skeletons, so all they could do was make assumptions based on bones and reconstructions. But based on the size of their brain cavity, they were able to tell that they had tiny brains, but also there was a suspicious amount of empty space towards their tails in their butts. The presence of enlarged hips made paleontologists believe that this meant that there was space for a second brain. You could follow their logic, especially for a few hundred years ago. This seemed like a reasonable deduction to explain, one, how these dinosaurs could function with such a small main brain, and two, why they had so much space in their rear and what could be back there. Because this feature was only really found in stegos and some larger sauropod dinosaurs, there was not much room for them to study this odd conundrum besides in the stegosaurs and the sauropod specimens that they already had. Fast forward to modern day paleontology, where this issue has been studied a lot more and reconsidered to try to get closer to the truth of what's actually back there in these long dead dinos. After years and years of study and research, we actually still aren't 100% sure what was actually back there. It most likely wasn't an actual second brain like we're used to seeing, but beyond that, it's hard to say without having the actual insides of a dinosaur to corroborate these guesses. Another potential explanation that researchers came up with was that they do have a second brain, or a bundle of nerves that act as a brain that would help send signals back and forth from their brain to their back half. Again, these are fair hypotheses based on the evidence, or lack thereof, but a leading theory bases its understanding of the structure on the similarities between dinos and birds. Birds are dinosaurs, which you may or may not already be aware of. Because scientists are aware of this ancestry, they're able to make comparisons in their biology to help understand more about dinosaurs where the fossils can come up a bit short. In birds, there's this thing called a glycogen body that is located in the spinal cord that has an undetermined function, but it exists and it's a visible feature when looking at their spinal cords. Based on a scientific study done in the 90s, it was found that there was evidence to support the presence of a glycogen body within stegosaurs, as well as some other larger sauropods. This structure made the nerves in this area more expanded than normal, and this led to their bodies growing with this extra space, which is what caused all these scientists to speculate in the first place. So that explains what's really back there. It's not really a second brain, but you now may be asking, if there was no second brain, how were they able to control their bodies? That was what was so appealing about them. It helped explain a crucial mystery surrounding these big dudes. Well, the answer to this is tied to the presence of that glycogen body and the large growth in their spines. It's kind of simpler than an extra brain, at least to my understanding, which could always be a bit off. Again, I'm not a scientist. But because this structure expanded their nervous system in this part of their spine, there was more room for extra neurons to fit in here towards the back half of their bodies. These extra neurons are what, most likely, allowed these big dinos to control their back legs and their tails, not another brain, and also not just unique to them. Stegosaurs were just tiny brain dudes with a bump in their spine. While they may not have had an actual butt brain, these dinos aren't any less cool because of it.